episode 131 of the TFW podcast. That's freaking wrestling. 3 the hard way. E, hit that drop. Hit that drop, E.
3 the hard way.
Shout out LA Knight. He's dialed in on E. Hit it again.
3 the hard way.
LA Knight is dialed in on us, baby. Let's go. That's freaking wrestling. TFW podcast. You guys know how we give it up. I'm your host, Matt, joined by my two highly esteemed co-hosts, Rhodesia and Eshaun. What's up, y'all?
Hi. I wanted to have this whole pod just talking about the beef that we got in rap. Like, everything's wrestling, right?
Everything is wrestling.
So then, as of this moment on Sunday morning, we haven't heard a Drake retort yet. What will we say this was a feud if we had to compare it to wrestling right now?
Real life feud? We talking like Brett and Sean, or we talking like a worked feud? A feud that's not real?
Let's go work. Since everything's wrestling, so work.
This is absolutely Cody and Roman for this time, period. You got the Cody fans who you are on one side, and you got the Roman 100%. Fans who are on the other side, and you got some people who are right in the middle who are just here to see the good grabs and the wordplay and the bars. But this is Cody and Roman circa 2024 for hip hop.
You have a comparison?
Man, y'all better get Karen Petrovic on this podcast.
She's tweeting this morning, right?
She has more insight on this than I do, I'll be honest with y'all.
Yeah, so what we'll do is toward the end, just in case nobody cares about the Drake and Kendrick, because I got some things I want to talk about. We'll talk about it at the end, just in case, because we don't want to start the show off and then people are like, oh man, they talking that hippity hop. You know, you got some old school people, the hippity hop.
The hippity hop.
That's probably how E is. He's like, man, I ain't trying to hear no hippity hop. Like, what's going on? But yes, that is what I think. Man, this week has just been incredible when you think about like everything we got going on, from music to sports to wrestling. It's jam-packed. So we are definitely going to take you through the wrestling stuff, because that is what we do. We talk freaking wrestling. Shout out to the listeners and supporters of the pod. Y'all know we appreciate you guys. I always say, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a family member. Tell them. Lock in. TFW podcast, 3 the hard way. You heard LA Knight at the beginning of the show.
He's a friend.
I think we got to
3
start
the hard
with,
way.
Bam, thank you, Mr. Knight. I appreciate that. We got to start Backlash. We almost forgot to do the Backlash preview.
Yeah,
last
so
week.
We cannot not start with the Backlash.
We didn't care too much about the show. But as always, we said we know it's going to be good, but like, whatever, right? You guys have heard me say previously, a crowd can make a bad show average, average show good, good show great, and a great show excellent. And that crowd was unlike any other crowd maybe I think I've ever seen. I would have to go back and think and look and all that. But Puerto Rico was hot last year for Backlash, same PLE. They wasn't touching France. France, bravo. That was incredible. They made everything seem important, which made Backlash a special show because of it.
Agreed.
Because in my opinion, Backlash was, and this is not a bad thing, but it was like a super highly glorified house show is what Backlash kind of was. Once again, not in a bad way, because we got some hard work. We got some fun things. They enjoyed themselves, but holy hell, did that crowd make it seem like it was the biggest WrestleMania in history. I loved it. I absolutely loved their energy from that show. We can start wherever y'all want to start. What do y'all want to talk about? Do y'all just want to talk about the crowd for a little bit? You want to go right into the matches? Where y'all want to go?
I think we should probably start with the new tag champions, just because we just got to represent for them. We finally got our Jade and our Bianca tag match champions. I think, Matt, you said it, probably even Eve, that we were going to get here anyways. How long this reign is going to be, this is probably the best way to, and I say protect Jade, but hell, are we protecting Jade anymore? Because
yes, we are. And it's not her fault.
I'm kind of sold a little bit after that performance yesterday. I am a little bit sold. I'm like, okay, And again, I'm not bringing up what she was before, but just to see like she signed to WWE what, about 6 months ago?
Yes, because she signed, probably close to it, and maybe a little bit longer than that.
Give or take a month. So you have her 6 months in front of all those people, all that energy. Again, we felt that electricity of the crowd through the television screen. Can you imagine what it felt like there?
She tweeted out
I'm
a thank you too, which was really, really cool. She tweeted out after they won, said heart emoji, crying emoji, trophy emoji. I just want to say this with my chest, and this is me being the most vulnerable. As a person who has a target on her back all the time, the ones who are happy for me, thank you. This is such an amazing moment in my career in 3 years. What I have accomplished, God is great. God is always great. Absolutely, Jade. So shout out to Jade. It's fantastic to see. And you can see she's having a hell of a time, boy.
Mm-hmm.
She is really, really enjoying herself. This is what I thought that we were gonna get this at Mania months ago when they had to stare down at the Rumble. Remember, I came out and I was like, I don't want a one-on-one match with them nowhere near yet, because that match can main event night 2 of a WrestleMania in the future. I want them tagging together, and I want them having the championships, and I want them keeping the belts for as long as humanly possible until they find the right story or team to break them up, if they need to break up that way. And then if we want to go directly into a one-on-one rivalry, cool, but maybe we don't even do that. Maybe they lose and they still stay together, the 3 of them, right? Because Naomi's on SmackDown also. So it was a month late, but awesome moment nonetheless, outside of that botch that happened, which it wasn't their fault. I think it may have been on the referee. I had to go back and watch. But E, what was your thoughts on Bianca and Jade? I know because you were maybe thinking about Naomi and Jade as tag champions. You good with what you saw yesterday and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, super happy for Jade. Huge Bianca fan of both of them. Huge fan of both of them. I thought that I wanted to see Jade as a heel, but I enjoy her face work. It's coming along. I like her and Bianca. They have like these little celebratory like claps and things they do and flexes they do. I love like the teamwork. They definitely seem. I was talking to Katrina about it. We were watching a little bit together, and I would say I like their camaraderie. I think I'm saying that word, but I like them together. I like they have a great chemistry in the ring. And they gel very, very quickly. I'm not sure how long they knew each other before she came to the company, but they have an instant chemistry that's very, very unique. The match was something. Did you ask, are we protecting Jade? I still kind of want to protect Jade. I'm not gonna say it like that. I think match quality wise, that was the one I didn't like the most. There was like, I'm not sure what point it was, but it just kind of got
It was when the ref told Jay that Kyrie was not the legal person. That was when it completely went haywire.
It just after a while, everything just looked a little off to me. But I don't know whose fault it is, because again, I'm not a trained wrestler or anything like that, though. It just looked weird of a match. But I'm happy at the end result, right? And I'm happy that the crowd stayed with the entire match, right? Regardless of the hiccups and what was going on in the ring, the France came for that match. They was there for like the celebratory. I was really ecstatic. Just for me, you guys said it. That France crowd was like amazing. It was almost like that Puerto Rico crowd. I don't know who was better, but I definitely felt the energy, and I needed it too, because I got up super early to do my thing. So when I started watching this, I was getting tired, but I stayed with the entire show. I didn't fall asleep at all. And partly because that crowd, the energy they brought, and you could see it infused the rest of the wrestlers, and you definitely see it infused and help that match. So thank you to France. And look, I love the tag team champions. I hope they have a long run. Awesome chemistry. They look great together.
Yeah, that match was anywhere in the U.S. outside of Philly, Chicago, New York. Probably it loses its luster when they had that issue. It took them. I want to say it took them about 4 minutes to get back on track. So what happened was, allegedly, according to the ref, Kyrie tagged herself out. She was not the legal person. So when that happened, now everything they're doing is things that they did not plan. and you can literally see them and now we got a language barrier.
Yep.
Right? We got, you know what I'm saying? So now we can't communicate as great as we normally would. And now we're just kind of going through what we think is supposed to be. And you see a lot of thinking. And like, so the bad part of it is there's a good and bad part of it. Now Jade has gone through that. So that's going to help her in the future. Bad part is Jade had to go through that on her first major PLE match, you know, where she's actually, you know, not in a 6-woman tag match or not doing the Rumble thing. So that was interesting. Like I said, I got to go back and watch because initially I'm like, it's got to be on the ref because the planned spots were with Jade and Kyrie. So if the planned spots are with Jade and Kyrie, you would think they know that those two are supposed to be in the ring. And then we got Bianca and we got Asuka doing their thing. So I don't know what happened there. Let's say I got to go back and watch. But that was like, this is really, really rough right now. To your point, the crowd stayed with it, which is fantastic. But they were lost in there, and they finally got back to the spot that they wanted to get back to, which was the armbar. And then once they did that, okay, now we're off. Now we're back to hitting our spots. Jade hits the big power move, and okay, you know, we're back on it. But it took away from it a little bit. Nothing where it was like, you know, it wasn't like, oh my God, that's the worst thing in the world. But what you could see though, just even before that, it was funny because Brandon had sent us a text yesterday, and he's like, any ring work evaluation of Jade on the docket for tomorrow. And at the time I was like, hell, let's do it if you want to hear about it. My evaluation is she's still thinking a lot more than what she needs to probably think. Because my assumption is going to be because they work these house shows. A lot of what we saw was what they've been working on house shows last few weeks. A lot of the combo spots between Jade and Bianca. So my assumption is going to be that they've worked these spots, they've worked these sequences, but a lot of times when Jade was selling, boy, that mind was moving 5 million miles per hour, and you could just see it in her eyes. Instead of selling, she's like, you can just tell she's thinking.
And you know, like, damn,
and
you know, I saw like
relax.
people comment, and they were like, oh, she's not any better than she was AEW, or she's the same as she wasn't AEW. But that was more noticeable in most of her matches that she was thinking a lot, like she was counting steps in between the spots, and that was much more noticeable. Now, I hadn't noticed that until that very segment about that. I thought everything was going smoothly up until that. And I felt like that 4 minutes or whatever it was, I felt like it seemed longer.
Sure did.
Right. It seemed a lot longer. But like you said, it was in front of the right crowd. Right. Because like that crowd wasn't going to let them fail. Like they were like, no, right. Y'all good. Keep going. Y'all, if that was like, you know, maybe a Chicago crowd, like any other crowd, you start hearing some boos, you would start hearing some things. And that probably would have threw somebody, maybe like a young girl like Jade off. Right. And that would kind of ruin the rest of the match. Right. But they wouldn't let them lose that moment. So they got with it, they connected, and we had a hell of a match.
I think that this was absolutely the best thing that could have happened. And I know you're like, what do you mean having a messed up spot in the match when you're on the big stage? Outside of that, she's green. You want to have these mess ups in real time. So now you know how to pivot and how to take it in. She's probably counting her steps because she's probably never felt such intensity and electricity from the crowd before. Yes, she's been in big arenas too, because they only had 15,000. Felt like it was 50,000 people there. They only had 15,000 people there, but she's been.
They announced it at 11, which means it's probably in the tens. And they still, like, how much did y'all spend on those tickets, France? Y'all messing it up for the U.S. We have any French listeners? We love you. Don't do that again. Because for y'all to only have 11,000 people in that arena, and that was the highest gate in WWE history.
For arenas, yeah.
Come on, man. That means y'all was spending, somebody did the math. It was like, that means U.S. dollars. It was an average ticket of $300. Woo! Average ticket.
So you in the nosebleeds at 150, huh?
Yeah, relax, man. Like, don't do that again. Because all I kept thinking about was, fuck, they got that type of money in France. What they gonna try to do for these WrestleManias going forward?
I think the WrestleManias, because that was like a stadium show for them. Like, right? Yeah, that was the equivalent of a stadium show.
It was just as loud as a stadium show.
So when we go to Undertaker told us, months ago that WrestleMania 41 was going to be in Vegas. So
he gave it up. Don't tell Mark nothing else.
Hey, look.
Else.
On the text chain, Matt and Brent like, oh, we going to Vegas, right? Matt like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I might need to start saving. I might need to start saving tomorrow. Y'all might be there. My ass might not, because like I gotta buy 2 tickets, and I'm not sitting in the nosebleeds. I can't do it. So if I gotta sit in the nosebleeds, I'm sitting at home. So
look, man,
but you gotta be down there for the energy. Even if y'all don't go to WrestleMania, y'all still gotta get to Vegas. Y'all still gotta have fun.
So we got June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Man, you got like 10 months to save
11.
up.
I got Katrina. Like, y'all
well, tell her that you're going on vacay.
Whole responsibility.
So this is part of the vacay budget. And every month, put something aside. But you can't eat. We do this here for a living soon. You can't be not going to Vegas. Mania 41.
Hey, well, we need to get some greater support for the podcast. So
I want to do this for a living, y'all.
Because,
I want to do this for a living.
Like right now, this is all coming out of Big Daddy pockets. And, these kids and this wife is bleeding these boys.
You can leave them at home.
If you're a real one.
I can leave them at home.
I mean, you keep saying that you are.
And then I can leave them at home, and I come back and I open that, I try to unlock that door, and I can't move it. I go to press the code, and the code didn't change. Yeah.
But I thought you run the household,
over a damn
right?
wrestling show.
Tell Katrina it's a work trip. Tell Katrina it's a work trip, E.
Yeah.
She wouldn't go with you on a regular work trip, right? Why would she go with you on this trip? And then you ain't got to tell her it's Vegas. Just tell her it's a work trip and just leave it right there. And then eventually you got to tell her it's in Vegas, and she'll probably put 2 and 2 together.
She'll put on. She knows about the big stuff that happens in wrestling. It hits her timeline.
But yeah, so we finally got Vegas, April 19th and 20th, which is Easter Sunday, which is awesome. I think from a business perspective, because kids probably got that day off and et cetera, et cetera. So Minnesota, I guess, came out was just like, we were told because of new management we missed out. It's like, damn, Minnesota.
Well, get it.
That's like twice now. They thought they were getting the show, and they didn't get it. So I'm excited because it is in Vegas. At first, I was like, I don't want to go to Vegas. We were just in Vegas a few years ago for SummerSlam. But that video package that they did together with Triple H talking about WWE's on fire, and you got Travis Scott, Fiend music in the background. I was like, I am absolutely sold. We've talked about how just cool wrestling has gotten again, and there's a really distinct direct correlation with the wrestlers who are on top, who are being pushed, and this infusion of hip hop music. It all goes to how cool it's been. So to see like a Travis Scott like thing where we've been in this weekend vortex for the last decade, it feels like with WrestleMania. I'm for it. I'm absolutely for it. But yeah, shout out to, of course, Jade and Bianca. Love to see it. But I am going to go back and rewatch that match. Let's talk about the main event.
All right.
We all knew AJ Styles wasn't going to win. This wasn't about AJ Styles winning. I think this was about telling a quick story with Cody and AJ, because there was a connection there. Bullet Club leaders, Dusty, et cetera, and kind of starting Cody's reign off on a strong foot, because we know the match is going to be great. And I'll be honest, I was sitting there watching the match, and I'm kind of like, man, I don't really care, to be honest. And they picked it up, and I was okay. That match was really, really strong, which I knew it would be, though. It was never a worry for me that Cody is going to deliver, AJ is going to deliver, but it was more of, I think for me, probably, I really enjoyed Jay and Damian.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I really enjoyed the women's tag match for the titles. So I was kind of cool, right? Because it was like no doubt who was winning the main event. So I was okay. I've gotten my fill. But that crowd showed up again. That one chant for AJ, which somebody deciphered it and said it was he is phenomenal. But that was so incredible, showing the camera shaking because they get up and they're dancing. Like, that's what wrestling is supposed to be, man. Like, sometimes I think we forget this thing is supposed to be for fun. Like, that is what this is. Mm-hmm. And they embody that in spades. But I thought the match was great. Wole did send us a question, so we can talk about it all at the same time. He said, since AJ may have had some steam. Now, Wole is a big AJ Styles fan, so shout out to Wole. He said, would you guys mind seeing him continuing a feud with Cody? Maybe including the OC to add to AJ's heelness. So I'll throw it to you guys. Of course, thoughts on the match, and then would you want to see this feud to continue?
So for the match, it wasn't as boring as I Let me start all over. I was a little bit more interested in Cody's
Oh my
match
God.
because
See, here we go again. Here we go. I mean, are we gonna give it up or are we gonna give it up?
We're giving up. Okay. No, actually I'm giving it up for the right ways. I'm saying that I
You
went
sat there
into
on your
the
phone
match.
playing phone games.
I played
You weren't paying
Candy
attention
Crush.
to the match.
I playing Candy Crush during the match.
And
But
then I
I will
challenged
say-
you on you weren't really watching. You was like, "Oh, I am watching." I was like, "Well, okay, tell me the sequence that just happened."
Oh, I told you the sequence. That's how you know the moves. I said he was trying to do a Styles Clash and it got reversed. He's like, "Oh, that's not the sequence." And I'm like, "Then what is an example of a sequence?" Anyways, you just asked me a question, so stop stepping over me. So I said that
Stepping over you?
Yeah,
I'm pulling the Kendrick. Anytime you say something, I'm dropping something right on you real quick. Go ahead.
You gonna get me all messed up.
I can't believe he did that to my GOAT Friday night. Whatever.
Oh man, he had that kill shot. Like boom, he dropped the mic and everything. He being Drake.
33 minutes later.
He's going on vacation. He said, "I did my work for the whole 2024.
Not no more. You got to come back."
He said, "I'm done. I'm on vacay now." Anyways, the match actually was a little bit higher tempo than what I thought it would be for a normal Cody match, but I think that had a lot to do with AJ Styles. That nasty neck breaker suplex that AJ gave him on the apron was sick and nasty. That was already after me. You got into our fight, so that's kind of like when it picked up. Overall, though, no one thought AJ was going to win. No one did. But he had a fantastic, phenomenal showing. I really, really liked it. And I was so happy that France was there too, because where this would have been a match where you're like, I really give no craps about, because I know that AJ is not going to win. That crowd still at least had us saying, okay, all right. Well, we knew that this was going to happen, but it wasn't that bad.
It was going hard.
Can't believe these Cody fans are sitting there playing Candy Crush.
I'm on really
just one game. Just one.
We playing a game that's been out for 30 years instead of watching a hot new first ever match. This is ridiculous, man. I just never heard these things, man. This show tickles me. I hope like the rest of the audience. But the thing about there's two things that this match had going into it. Number one, there wasn't really any huge heat in the match, right? And then number two, AJ has rebounded a little bit from where he was maybe 6 months ago, to where he might have been kind of cold. But he's still not fully there, in my opinion. The match came together very quickly, right? Because it was a tournament to decide the winner. And it happened to be AJ Styles, who again, AJ Styles, I don't think he's the hottest wrestler on that roster right now, right? There's a lot of hot wrestlers, but I don't think he's the hottest one right now. He looks hot though. Not like pause though.
No,
not like that.
Unpause.
Not like that.
AJ looks fine.
Love who you want to love. Be who you want to be. I ain't mean it like that. But
no, AJ looks good. Good.
Like, but yeah, the muscles is like, he looked like almost like a different person, right? Physically, he almost like a different person, right? So he put a new coat of paint on himself physically, and that's hard to do, especially at his age, right?
Right.
But the fact remains is that,
he still have all his hair too at his age.
Yeah. He must be a Road Game member as well. But we all knew that Cody was going to win this match. It was no question about it, right? So then you go into a match that you're not really that hot for, and you automatically know what the finish is going to be. With that being said, it was a great match, and then all pun intended, it was very phenomenal. And of course, like the fans crowd brought it to add extra like levels to the match main event. The match is way better than I thought it was going to be, just from a heat perspective, because they had so much heat coming from the crowd. They was there for all the near spots, and Cody seemed to be reinvigorated too, man, because he was like in the moment.
You could tell that match meant something to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
This shit means something to us, man.
There it is. He was
Little
just
Matt
missing the tears. The first time he didn't cry. He should have.
Little Matt was like, Cody picked up some weight too. But AJ must have gave him a little bit of muscles, because I was a little bit concerned a couple of weeks ago, and I said it here on the show. I'm like, you going against this new monster of a beast, Cody. You got to put some weight on, and at least to me, it looked like he was a little bit more muscular.
Well, he's probably not on as strict of a diet, right? went to like
he's
that.
back to not leaning out. Yeah.
Yeah, he went to like they kind of like you can tell even Roman Reigns was very lean. You can see like in Roman Reigns' face was very, almost like he almost didn't have any fat on his face, right? Like you can tell they treated that match like a UFC match, right? Like they were trying to cut weight or whatever the case may be. Now, Cody out of Mania season, he's probably not as strict on the diet and the camera crew, but still great match, great showing. I love the passion, the fire. I kind of need Cody to continue that fire. And the rest of his matches going forward. Because almost like a Hulk Hogan-ish like fire up. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I said that.
Like Rhodesia wasn't there for it. But like Rhodesia,
I said, this is
I don't
Hogan.
think you was. But even as a fan, like in all seriousness, like I don't think you were a fan during that time period, right?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So like
99 in the 2000, baby. Well, actually 98, but I'm gonna rep the 99 in 2000.
Yeah, Rhodesia,
we talk
man.
80s.
Look, when we were kids,
80s.
That Hulk Hogan like fire up, bruh. Let me tell you, man. That's what that seemed like to me, right? Like you could see and feel the passion. It didn't seem like it was fake passion too. He is passionate.
Yeah.
His whole body turned like a whole different color. Like, right, and he got into it, and then he got to look, and then he has like the whole cadence down too, right? Before he hits the crossroads, he does the whoa, right? So now you got the crowd interaction into it too. I like that added measure to it. Like he figuring it out, man. Like I know that. Hey, I know somebody on this pod. I'm not gonna name no name. Said that within 2 months, Cody's gonna the crowd was gonna turn against him.
But I think
we good.
First off, there still is a lot of people who didn't care about this match. But I'll give you that. But that code breaker or whatever is Cody breaker off that top, that was when you say passion.
Cody Cutter.
Cody Cutter, whatever you want to call it.
If you were watching and not playing Candy Crush, you would have known.
You talking about
I don't know the names of
these
stuff. Yes. Oh my God, that's so sick. That was so nasty. And Matt, if I wasn't paying attention, then I wouldn't have saw it real time. Okay.
Well, they replayed it a few times.
No, I watched it real time, and I'm on level 5,000 in Candy Crush.
And you probably woke up this morning and watched the video package.
No, I didn't.
Hey, low key. Rhodesia, like for real though.
Get some receipts. See, this is okay. We about to be Drake and Kendrick up in here, and we know who Kendrick is. So,
hey, but Rhodesia, like that spot was vicious though. I think it was more so. I think it was more so like how in the way AJ took it too, because I think it's like almost like AJ caught him, and then like the momentum forced him down, and it looked like very vicious the way he came down on it. Like that probably was like the into RKO, right? Like the most vicious one I've seen, like not just from Cody, from anybody. That looked like that would hurt somebody's neck.
Yeah, AJ took it a little bit differently. Typically, you just, of course, you go flat, stomach flat, and take it. But this one, it was the way, which made sense because he's like, look, if I am not kicking out of the crossroads and you only give me one, you got to do something before that to lay me out, and that was what we got.
Yeah.
So then, do you want this feud to continue?
Do I want to? Well, if it continues, they gotta put some heat on it. Like, right, like it gotta be all right. AJ has to firmly establish himself as the heel, right? And they gotta do something to put some heat. Maybe it was a beat down. Maybe he bloodies Cody. He has to do something to turn up the villainous factor in this feud, right? It can't be the show of respect and hey, I love your dad. We got that connection. Let's have another rematch. Like, nah, bro, I'm coming. AJ gotta come after his ass.
And that's why, like for me, I'm good on them wrestling again. This match, it felt like a one and done. Now, of course, Friday night, Cody could be out there cutting promo. AJ attacks him, and now we're back off to the races again. But one crossroads, which I love that because we were getting to the point where Cody would have to hit like 5 in the match to win. So I'm glad that
he leveled up. He leveled up. He beat Roman. And he done leveled up. Yeah.
I'm glad it only took one. But even like the way the match was set up, the match wasn't set up for another one. Like you didn't watch that match and say they got another gear they were holding on to, and that other gear is for like a rematch. It would felt like, man, that was a great match. All right, now it's kind of time to move on. And it was also the way too that AJ got the title match. He got the title match because they were trying to find a number one contender. It wasn't because this was a personal blood feud and here we are. So just like if you take all that into account, I think I'm good on seeing them work again like next month.
What's the next PLE?
The next one is King of the Ring. King and Queen of the Ring.
King and Queen of the Ring. Yeah, maybe not. I would say if it's another gimmick PLE, they can have another gimmick match.
Well, because you don't even need, and the cool thing is with the King and Queen of the Ring, you don't even need Cody to work that show because it looks like
But
they're
it's in
taking this
Saudi,
tournament.
though, right?
Yeah, it looks like they're taking this tournament serious. The matches they
Hell
announced.
yeah. Somebody
Boy,
said that. Somebody said Tony booking.
Well, we got to see how
the
the
matches
finishes
for
are. Then we can tell
tomorrow.
if Tony's booking. So yeah, so we got the King of the Ring May 25th, and then after that we got Clash of the Castle. He will absolutely be defending the title. Then that's June 15th. Then we got Money in the Bank in July, and then August is SummerSlam. So yeah. So we'll see. We will see. Wole, I'm guessing you would like to see AJ in another one. So if so,
Hey, but real quick, right
shoot me a
before you
message.
switch gears, stay on that same lane. Like, if not AJ, who's next?
And that's
That's
kind of
why
what I said.
But that's why I don't know if you don't need a match in 3 weeks for Cody. If
So
it's
you're
all
s-
about the King and Queen of the Ring, no, I mean, he of course come out and cut a promo if he wants to do that, but he doesn't have to have a challenger at that show. So now you're building to June on the SmackDown side, opposed to trying to build someone else in the next 3 weeks.
So you're still though riding the wave that we're gonna see him in the final boss around SummerSlam.
I never said that.
Okay, so then let me. So then
I think they're going to hold that off. I think they're holding that off to Mania next year.
Okay, so then
I
who
don't
else-
think we're getting Rock and Roman in Vegas unless something changes. And I'm only going off of what they're presenting to us. When The Rock left, he said I'm gonna be gone for a while, and when I come back, et cetera, that's too soon for me for SummerSlam. That's not really a while. Like that's a normal Roman Reigns schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like for him to be gone from April to August, that's not that big of a deal.
So I think the only way that would work.
It's Mania.
The only way that would work, as far as who would be the person in the holding pattern until the final boss, you would have to then have Gunther win as King of the Ring, or King of the Ring is what it's called.
Yeah, but he's on Raw. Cody's on SmackDown.
So they can only go after that said title.
Well, yeah. Well, the King of the Ring winner doesn't get a title shot.
Well, let's say revamp something. Like I don't know. There was no. Wait a minute though. Didn't Gunther say something about a championship?
He's in the King of the Ring
match
tournament.
Or something?
He is.
I
in
know,
the
but
King of the Ring
tournament.
But didn't he mention something about winning the King of the Ring and then going on to facing the
champion.
champion?
He said
I'm
that.
Did
sure.
he mention that?
Yeah, I don't think that's the caveat to it, which would be great if it was. I think he's
But that'd
just
be a
saying
number one contender.
what his action plan is for himself. I'm gonna go win this tournament, and then I'm taking the belt off of Damian Priest.
I just don't know who else you could build. So even though you just bought yourself 3 weeks to 4 weeks to go get another opponent to build into Money in the Bank or whatever, the Classic the Castle, I don't know who else that would be. And again, I guess that we're not the writers, but
do Carmelo and then have him have another good showing. You guys are fans of good showing.
then we might as well just keep it AJ then if that's the case.
All they got to do is not try that damn slingshot spot, and I'm good. All they got to do is try that.
So that should be interesting. But yeah, I mean, back to and I'm so excited. We can just talk about the opener with Orton and KO and the Bloodline. So I mean, if you think about like The Rock and either Cody or Roman, and this is crazy how this works out. Now I kind of feel like, and we got 10 months left, but the way the story is being set up, I kind of feel like Roman and Rock is too soon for next year's Mania now. Like we wanted it before. We're like, oh, it's perfect time for 40. And now with how they're telling the story, you kind of sit back and you're like, well, there's too much meat on the bone. There's still too much meat on the bone with Rock and Cody. There's too much meat on the bone with explaining who really is pulling the string now with Bloodline 2.0. Is it Solo? Is it somebody else? Is it The Rock? And then if it is, Roman's still going to have to deal with the soldiers that's put in front of him with Bloodline 2.0, with OG Bloodline 1.0. And like, yeah, you can say maybe that happens at Survivor Series War Games. And then that gets us to Rock and Roman next year's Mania. But it's just like there's a lot of fire to this whole Bloodline thing. So it's gonna be fun to see like what they decide to really put the decision and making on. Because I think we could get Rock and Roman at Mania 42 and it still be a good match because they can work around Rock's limitations. But is that too late? And then there was a story that came out, which I don't believe. I shouldn't even bring it up because Meltzer has been, I think, more wrong than right this year. He came out earlier this week and said that, or last week, and said that one of the plans or talking plans was for The Rock to beat Roman at WrestleMania.
His past Mania?
Yep.
Okay.
For the title. And then he gives the title up. And then when he comes back, he's known as the People's Champion. He's a heel. And it was the whole thing of he just took the title off of him. I'm the People's Champion. And then they do a tournament or whatever the case may be to crown the new champion. I'm glad they didn't do that at all. Because the whole point of Roman's reign was to give that rub to somebody. And that rub was to Cody Rhodes. If you give it to Rock and he just gives the belt up, it was all for nothing.
All stupid.
Yeah. So once again, I don't even know if that's true, but that was what he said. But we get Tanga Loa in WWE, which I loved them not stooging off that finish beforehand. I think some of us thought maybe Jacob Fatu may show up because we know he's coming in, but the match was not scheduled to be no DQ. The show starts off with them just brawling. And then, of course, security's out there. And then now we get this. All right, you know what? Y'all want to do this? Cool, make it no DQ. Even at that point, I didn't think they're making it no DQs for the bloodline to interfere. That never crossed my mind at all because they're already, doing table spots and trash can spots. So for Tanga Loa to show up at the end cost KO and Orton the match. I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was absolutely tremendous because I didn't see it coming. What'd you guys think?
Same here. I didn't see the very beginning of the match, but I did see kind of when they were already in the ring. And just, it sounded, I was going to say it sounded, but everything in France sounded great. But it sounded like it was just a really great match. And there was even some messaging in the text message, like, this is like a really good match. And when it comes to street fights, they can be really good or they can be really bad. And for me, I really enjoyed from what I saw of the match. When Tanga Loa came out, I'm like, I didn't even know he had a contract that was up, that was due. Because again, no one ever stooged it off. No one even said anything about that. I did think for a second that it was his brother, but I'm like, no, he's a little bit not as husky as Jacob. But I was just like, let's go. And then I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but after the match, and we got Paulie looking at Jay before Jay went out on his match with the new Bloodline 2.0. Like, just the facials, the things that Paul says without saying, like, just, I'm here for it again. Like, who would have thunk a year and a half later, after us getting some of the best writing in professional wrestling history, that I can say, you know what? All right, I'm ready to get back at this all over again. It just makes you, one, appreciate, and I'm going to say Roman even more, but just whoever was all involved with that. If you want to call it Paulie, Roman, want to say Vince initially, since Vince had always said that Roman's our new guy. If you want to give him a little bit of that credit, whatever. Maybe I'm not saying that, but it's true. Vince did put all of that on Roman, but just this telling of this bloodline story in so many new layers and just so many new, oh my God, this is it. And then us getting surprised. Again, even if you think about it, we knew that bloodline wasn't going to lose. We knew that because just when Solo said winning matters here, but we didn't think it was going to happen like this, or at least I didn't. I'm not going to act like I did.
Man, so we're still seeking sponsors for the show, and this is Positive Energy. It's by Yogi. It really works because Matt sets up with a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack and really into the match. When there's a lot to unpack within the match. And so I'm glad that I can stay focused. I can kind of follow along the discourse that we're having right now. But I want to stick with the match right now because I thought the match was phenomenal.
What a commercial. What a promo.
I thought...
You get paid for that. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, for real. Hey, I'm trying to show them what we got because that's just a little taste. You know what I'm saying? Hey, and Yogi, hook us up because I can easily switch to a different brand. But like the energy that they brought, the crowd in France brought for Randy's Orton's entrance, right? We saw it on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Right. Where they sung the whole song and you see the how heartfelt that was for Randy. You can tell he's really enjoying this, maybe this last big run for himself, right? And to hear that crowd singing, and they gave the crowd time to sing the entire song. Like, right? That was phenomenal. And you see right before that, you got KO coming out there. He's absorbing the energy, right? And then they start having a hell of a brawl with the bloodline. Like, right? Like, and specifically, like, Tama and KO. like them boys be getting it. Like, man,
going
like they
for it.
like
They were
they
going
going for it, right? Like the energy they got is
Yep.
different than energy
They were
that
going for
Solo and Randy had, right?
Yes, sir.
Randy's like, hey, we ain't doing all that. Like,
Yep.
right, like you let them boys have that, right? Because as Tama and KO, Tama and KO, they was really going at it. It looked like it, right?
And you
like,
know the cool thing about that too, E, was like, but they had to. This is Tama's first big spot.
Yeah.
If you got to go balls to the wall, right? Just like I talked about Mercedes when she showed up that first night on AEW and she gave Sky Blue that forearm, that it has to be there.
It has
Like
to be there.
I can't see through that work. And when they first started, after they announced and they got in the ring and they were going, blow for blow, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, well, this is what has to happen. And it's perfect for it to be KO. We know KO's a crazy SOB. He's down for whatever. Yeah, and to your point, Orton is like, you know what, Solo? That's me and you come over here. We'll go through a couple of tables.
Yeah. We just but like they had that energy like the last time they were on because I think it was on SmackDown, right? And they brought it again on this one. So like their energy, and it made it, as you said, like it looked more real, right? And that's what I miss about some of the older style wrestling is that it looked more of a struggle. It looked more real. It didn't look as choreographed, right?
Yep.
Like that segment right there, they probably agree that, hey, we're gonna go at each other, we're gonna make it look legit and rough, but it came across like a real like beef that was happening. So that adds to the flavor of the match to me because them boys are going at it. And then when Tonga Loa popped up, really surprised because we're looking for Joseph Fatu, right? We heard the rumblings that Joseph Fatu was signed months ago. Like, so for Tonga, and to be honest with you, and the more of a surprise for me for him is that I hadn't really been seeing his name pop up much on New Japan for a while.
For Tonga?
No, Tonga Loa. Okay. Loa, he hasn't popped up on New Japan for a while now. It seemed like Tama was going through kind of like the paces for some while, for probably the past 6 or so months. When you say that, Matt, like he wasn't because I think he was right around the time he was supposed to sign with WWE, which was right around the time that Jay White was looking to sign with WWE. So I guess maybe the freeze had freezed him out a little bit, and maybe he decided instead of I'm gonna accept the contract, maybe I'm just gonna take some New Japan dates. I'm just gonna lay low, and so when I can hop over, I'm gonna hop over. I'm not sure. Maybe it was a conversation that was had. I hope they should have had the same conversation with Jay. God damn it, and he over there. And for me as a Jay White fan, and I like what we're getting to AEW hopefully later on in the show. I actually liked the last show, but I would love to see him on WWE. But let's go back to WWE. Nice signing. I love the energy that they're going to do. I think possibly you're going to have a bloodline. And it's different because, like, Tama and Lola, they're not necessarily bloodline, right? They're like, maybe they're affiliates. I don't think they're even cousins, but they bringing them into the fold. You got Joseph, who actually is another cousin. So you have Solo, you have Joseph, you have God. You
mean Jacob?
Right?
You mean Jacob?
Oh, whoever I said. Fatu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All them Joes and Fatu. Fatu. You have those four, and then you have the original bloodline at some point. Going back to what you said, Matt. You have Roman, you have the Usos reunited. And I want to talk about Jay at some point too. I guess we're gonna get to it maybe after this talk. But you're gonna have the Usos, you're gonna have Roman, and maybe they bring Sammy back into it, right? Like, yo, Sammy.
That makes perfect sense, man. Like, it only makes sense for it to be Sammy. And so a couple things that I want to go back to shouting out that France crowd again, because on Friday I said that, and this not to get like too hokey or sentimental, but you think about some of those folks in that crowd. This may be their one and only WWE event they've ever gone to. They've watched WWE, some of them potentially longer than the three of us. There's somebody in that crowd who has watched longer than the three of us that was their first show. And they get to sing Randy Orton's music.
Yeah. For
the first and only time. Legit, I think I've seen Randy Orton 50 times in person. Mm-hmm. I'm not singing Randy Orton's music. I'm used to it, right? Like, I'm over it, but like, it's okay. It's the same thing. But for them,
Matt,
this is...
Hey, Matt, I've never sung Randy's song before, but I sang it last night, though.
But but that's what I'm saying, right? It's that infectious energy.
Yeah.
You think about the yeet. Think about the yeet. Jay Uso is my favorite wrestler. Him and Cody Rhodes. And they get to do the yeet and the whoa. and I may never be able to get to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by like this wrestling thing is supposed to be fun. And yeah, like they're based in the US. So of course we are used to it and we can go theoretically kind of whenever we want to, right? We get live events, we get the major PLEs. If we wanted to go to, 4 or 5 shows a year, you can probably do that realistically in the United States. That's not a thing internationally. So to be able to see that, I thought that was really, really cool. And then to your point about the bloodline, and this is why this feud and the writing of this is so incredible, because Bloodline 2.0 is the polar opposite of what OG Bloodline is. They are menaces, they are violent, they are nasty, and that is not what the Bloodline was. The Bloodline was really based on family and doing whatever we need to do to make sure Roman is still champ. But it was not, we're bloodying people. You know what I'm saying? It was none of that. So for Heyman to shoot Jay that look of like, it was a look of confusion, of fear, of help, of this is deeper than this is not what we all signed up for. And yes, I am a massive Roman Reigns fan, but when that moment comes where we hear that music for the first time and it's out of nowhere because whatever may happen, right? Maybe the Usos are getting beat down, maybe Heyman's, but who knows how they kind of do that. But when that moment happens, there's gonna be tears in that crowd of Usos getting back together and Heyman getting with them and Roman. And then if we include Sammy, oh my God.
It's gonna be big time. But hey, guys, though, it happened almost seemed like so long ago. But on SmackDown, they dropped the bombshell for us, right? Paul Heyman stayed with that. Heyman dropped the bombshell. He dropped the bombshell. Like he must. Oh, I ain't talked to Roman Reigns since Mania. Huh? So who calling the shots? Who calling the shots? Wait a minute. So whose decision was it to take Roman out of the draft? What's really popping on right now? Potentially could Heyman be caught pulling the strings for somebody else? Well, I mean, it's a lot of questions that are.
So I didn't take it like that. I took it as he said I did.
Yeah,
he took Roman out.
Yeah, because I'm like, this is not, my tribal chief cannot be involved in this right now. This is not what we signed up for. And once again, you talk about the writing of it, and it makes perfect sense because the story he told of why Roman did not put himself in the draft was the biggest babyface reason in the world. He's not going to be around. He doesn't want to take that number 1 spot. Look, we lost. We need to regroup. Cool. Nobody would have ever thought that wasn't the case. And then when he let that slip on Friday, and he's like, look, man, I'm not subjecting him to what's happening right now. That is
but hold on though, real
do.
Quick. So when you think about it, why you think about that? He didn't let him get undrafted from SmackDown. Where's the bloodline on SmackDown? If he wanted him to get away from that, he would let them draft him to Raw. So he had to deal with the bloodline and what's popping off right now. Like, right? So whenever Roman come back, he got to deal with what's happening in this situation. So it would have been better for him to let him get drafted to Raw so he can be away from him. But he kept them in like the war zone.
Well, because SmackDown had the first pick. That's why. So if SmackDown had, because Bianca went first and she's on SmackDown. So theoretically, if Roman was available, SmackDown would have picked Roman first, you would think.
Maybe they wouldn't have.
But I love that. I thought that was genius too.
Hey, Terry's back at it again. Terry Tall Tales.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Triple T? T?
You know what he said?
What he said?
He said he knows who the real tribal chief is.
Uh-oh.
Oh shit. Is it
and he's coming through this week dropping bars. Rikishi.
Oh.
Somebody get Rikishi on WWE TV ASAP. I know Rikishi has a Legends deal. This man is screaming.
Oh, let me get some attention, please.
Somebody, anybody, put me on TV. I have something, and I do believe Rikishi, when the time is right, should be on television. I don't know why he wouldn't be, but he dropped a diss track on Hogan on Friday. My man is writing his own WWE2K storylines every week on his Twitter. That didn't work. He's like, all right,
I'm gonna jump in on this rat beef. So let me
see if I can get this angle, and maybe Kendrick or Drake will bring me out on tour, and then I can get at Hogan this way. I don't know what's next for Rikishi, but God bless. God bless. Usos. Get your daddy on TV.
We got to get him. But hey, guys, let's stay with the Usos, right? So what you guys think about that match? Just give it to me. What you guys think about Jay Uso versus Damian Priest?
I thought it was a really solid match. It was kind of overshadowed though to the ending and Damian Priest's reaction and how he hemmed up Finn Balor. So to me, that's all I took away from that match, and it sucks though because Jay had that place rocking. I really did like the match. I thought it was probably an A- for me, but that hem up at the end, when we see that Damian is like he's serious about his, no, he wants to win fair. I told y'all,
he grabbed Finn by his face.
Like
you don't grab nobody by his face unless
you
you ready. Yeah, unless you ready to take it there. You don't grab no man by his face.
So that's all I can remember from the match. That's my takeaway, is that Damian's like, hold up, bruh. I told you to keep your ass back there. Both of y'all.
You and JD. JD McDonough. My thoughts are the match was better than I thought it would be. And a lot of that has to do with the crowd. My biggest takeaway, and I tweeted it, is Jey Uso is the most popular WWE wrestler, excluding nobody, currently right now in this moment.
He said excluding nobody.
And they need to make sure they protect that as much as possible. We talked about him not beating Damian, and I talked myself into a shoot. I was like, hey, give me Jay. I knew Jay wouldn't win that match. And that's not the story they're going with. And like I said, because then you kind of step on Damian. That's not fair to Damian. It looks like we're going to get a face Priest here soon and maybe feuding with Balor. That should be fun. But with Jay, you got to give him something important to hold us off until we do get the next part of the bloodline, because the bloodline is on SmackDown. He's on Raw. So they're completely separate right now. You can't just have Jay coming out and just yeeting and there's nothing to the yeets. Like, I don't know if that's the IC title. I don't know if that is a massive feud that we don't see yet that they're going to start, but they need to give him something significantly tangible to do to maximize how popular he is, because it would be a waste if they don't utilize him to the most that they can. It would be like LA Knight times 2, because he's more over than what LA Knight is. And it's like, all right, what are we doing with him? Yeah, what are we doing though?
You don't think that we can achieve that by him being like the new leader of Bloodline 1.0? If this is the way that we're going?
When we get to that point. But when are we getting to that point? It's going to be a while. Jimmy's not even drafted. And he's injured. And like I said, Bloodline is on SmackDown. He's on Raw. So he's not going after the IC belt right now because Sammy has it. That doesn't make sense. And it looks like Sammy is going to be in the feud with Chad Gable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jay is not in the King of the Ring tournament either, right?
I didn't see him on tomorrow's lineups. But I don't know.
So I mean, I think that's
don't want to see King Jay.
Yeah, like that does nothing for you.
King Jay.
Yeah. So now, like say, okay, he's in this position, and you let the tea leaves tell it. One of the big reasons why Roman was adamant on not losing to Cody last year was, let's set Jay up as a star. Okay, well, we've done that. He is an absolute superstar. Check that box off. Okay, well, now what are we going to do with it? And he just can't be just the yeet guy, because then that gets old and then you wasted him.
I'm going to tell you guys what, like, it's not like my family is the barometer for like what's hot or not, but I would say they're more casual viewers. Right? So like when Jay came out and he was rocking the crowd and he had that entire 50,000, like, I don't know how many, y'all said it was 11,000. It seemed like it was like 100,000 people in that room, man. Like,
yep.
they were rocking, but they had the whole crowd doing that wave. Man, I had Ian and Ethan, my two sons, next to me. Wasn't really watching the show, but man, when Jay came out and that music hit and the energy from that crowd, when that crowd was waving, them little boys was waving the whole time. Like Jay got them little boys hype. And they weren't hyped for relief. Nobody else on that show not like that. Really, they know they get hyped for Cody when they see him because they know that's Daddy's guy. Mm-hmm. But like Jay had them boys rocking, just with the rest of that arena. When you started in the early part of that match, when Jay was doing the yeet chants with the crowd, which I don't think I've seen him do before, but they was there for that. I was telling y'all about the Yeet chants. I'm like, yo, like that's like the WWE universe. They like the interaction, and that allows them to interact. Great match, and the crowd was there for all the near falls. So when we talk about like these super matches and these match of the year candidates, like when they don't have it for me when they don't have the near falls, right? So like I'm not going to say that Damian and Jay was a 5-star match or match of the year or whatever it is. I don't really rate the matches like that when I watch them, but I was there for all the near falls. I was rooting and cheering for Jay with the rest of the crowd. And when Jay had that sequence right before he lost, super kick,
taking everybody
spear, out. You know what I'm saying? And then he didn't. So then when JD pulled the ref, I think, or Jay out, I'm not sure which one, I can't remember now. But when that finish didn't happen and that crowd realized that Jay ain't winning, like that was one of the only times where the crowd got quiet for a second. Go back and watch. They got quiet for. Then like, okay, it ain't happening. Let's get it back hype, y'all. Come on, let's get it back. Let's get it back, right? Which I appreciate. But that was the one time because like the crowd was ready for a Jey Uso. I say this. Whatever they do with Damian, I'm sure it's gonna be a great story. I don't think actually I know for a fact that whatever they do with Damian, he's not gonna get to the level that Jay's at right now.
No.
And sometimes you gotta pull like in any business, you gotta make a change. Like, right? Maybe this was Jay's time in front of a hot audience, right? While the crowd's on them to win the championship. Like, right? Because you can still tell that story. Whatever story they're going to tell with Damian and the Judgment Day, they can still tell that story without him being champion. Because I'll be honest with you, hey, no disrespect to that man, but he seems like the transitional champion for whoever's coming next, just in my opinion. And I don't think a face turn and him turning on Judgment Day is going to get him to the level he needs to be to where he's like that legit champion. Like, right? So that's just my two things. I think that Jay should have won that match. I think we should have a new champion. They can continue to let, Damian tell that story because like whatever they're going with, and I'm with Rhodesia. Like, man, let me tell you, I don't know how Finn felt in his heart. You gonna grab me by my face in front of 70,000 people?
He said in front of 75,000 people.
Instead of 85,000 people, you gonna grab me my face and fool? I just helped you because you done lost. Because Damian almost lost that match twice. Like, right? Like he was never in position to win that match without the Judgment Day, right? And that's a story they can tell. But then, like, oh man, it's 95,000 people here, and you hold me by my chin. Fam.
And here's the thing: I'll let you push me. I give you that one, right?
Okay, calm down. Yeah.
You push me all the way to the corner.
Okay.
The moment that hand was coming like this.
Oh no! Right? Oh.
It's over.
By the beard. Hey, it looks like he just got some extra paint on that boy. You know what I'm saying? And now you done rubbed out the paint too, bro. Man. Look, it was time to turn.
You talking about his beard?
Yeah. You know, Finn. Finn, I'm with you too. Look, let me tell you, man.
Let the grays show. Grays show wisdom.
We ain't showing yet either. Hey, them God, they got some grays too. And them boys is them hairs and that beard is as black as a black. I don't know what they use. I don't know what just for man they use it. I'm a DM. I'm gonna ask them because I want it too. Because they was looking crispy. But
grays are beautiful.
No, not for me.
It's wisdom.
But y'all, Jay should have won that match. France wanted that match. Big Daddy wanted the match. The kids wanted the match. They should have had it.
When you said that, it took me back to SummerSlam. Same conversation we were having. We knew because Jay had pinned Roman the month prior in the tag match. Jay wasn't winning. But we were saying this story really started with Jay and needs to end with Jay. Jay needs to win the championship. And here we are again 6-7 months later saying the exact same thing. They got something special in Jay. And it's not many times where you could be saying that completely different storylines. And you're saying like Jay should have the title on him. And that's what I mean when I say like they got to make sure, and I'm sure they will, but they got to make sure
he's over more now than he was when he fought Roman, in my opinion. Like the character, the look, like, right? He looks unique and has his whole thing. Kind of say he has his whole yeet with the baby blue and the black thing going on. Like right now. So this is what we talked about with Swerve, right? I was like, no, his character isn't complete yet. This Jey Uso character right now is complete.
Something I just thought about.
It's main event ready.
The word last week was the rosters will be set and there may be a couple of trades by the end of Monday night. Not to say Jay is going to get traded to SmackDown, but that's something else. We sat here and talked about the Cody of it all. Who's next for Cody? I don't know. All right, what's next for Jay? I don't know. Maybe we see something on Raw Monday if they do some trades that could help with that.
So you're saying possibly Jay and Cody?
No. I'm just saying that was something that, I was just saying that was something that we didn't think about. And I just remembered that was talk internally, was that the reason why there wasn't a lot of movement on the draft because they were really excited on the rosters backstage. And they didn't have anybody go down to NXT because it was looked at as a demotion to the talent perceived. And there's a different pay structure in NXT, which we knew that already. And the last part of that was when they lock in the rosters by the end of Monday, there may be a couple of trades before that. So we'll see. Last thing on Backlash, or a match anyway, Tiffany Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't felt this way about a talent this quick since Bianca Belair.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing Bianca in NXT. And remembering the same things when I watched Jade. Now, Bianca was farther along than Jade when she hit TV, but I remember watching Bianca on a few of those first takeovers and like talking to the TV like, breathe, like relax. You could see it on her too. And Tiffany's incredible. Mm-hmm. She's got everything. I think they're going to have to intentionally pause her at times throughout this year. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know if their plan is to have her beat Bayley for the championship this early. You wouldn't think so, but I think they're going to have to intentionally pump the brakes on her. I think she's that good.
I was telling you yesterday, she just doesn't get blown up. Like I watch her even a little bit in NXT, and even now when I watch her in so far her matches has been multi-woman matches, but she does all these different acrobatic things and it seems like she belongs. Kind of like how I feel about Ricochet when he first came up. Even with Carmelo, like it's like they're conditioned for it. Like that's the one thing that you don't have to worry about them in their whole development as a professional wrestler on WWE. Like you don't have to worry about that with her. Like the mic work is there. The in-ring is there. You know, she's only going to get even better and develop on that even more, especially if she starts rivaling Bayley. And I'm from the whole school of you don't pump the brakes on somebody. If it's something that's like organically or authentically about to happen, let it shine. But you're right, unless they're willing to give her that title shot against Bayley, because that's the top, you know, you go after the main champ, they're going to have to pump the brakes. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but she has it. She really does.
IT.
The quote, the great philosopher Alfonso Scott, sometimes you gotta let the pimp come shining through. But before I talked about before I talk about Tiff Stress, I want to again shout out France because they brought it for my girl Naomi too.
Yeah,
like man, like they was doing the fist pump with their man. Like they brought it for Naomi. I haven't seen a crowd get that behind a woman in a long time, so that was awesome to see. Match was great, but Tiffy time is here, man. Like she is just phenomenal. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She looks great. She works great, and I think that's a pretty good comparison to Bianca Belair as far as somebody who's like quickly seemed like they got it. But the difference with Tiffy versus Bianca, like Bianca gravitated to the entertainment part very quickly as far as her charisma, her mic style. Like it took her a minute to get the wrestling side, right? Because, you know, back in the day, it was Rhea and Bianca, right? They were kind of like there. And Bianca had Rhea on the entertainment part, but Rhea was the better worker. But like Tiffy, personality, mic work, and in-ring is all peaking at the same time and growing at an extremely fast rate. Man, she is so good, so quick. I don't know about pausing her because I don't know what stories they really got to tell. It's the same thing we talk about with Jay. Like, I can't see another story that I want to see more than them being where they need to be. Sometimes you don't want to speed to it, right? But sometimes you want to naturally and organically let it get to where it needs to go. Like, right. And she's growing at such a rate to where it will make sense for her to get to the top sooner than later. Like, right. Sometimes, and this is what we talked about with Jay, is that sometimes like you pumping and doing the stop stuff, it kind of ruins some of the energy, takes off some of the luster off some of these acts. Let great people be great. Put them in the positions, because right now, like, I can't see, like, hey, I like Bailey too. Like, right. But who would you guys rather see right now in a match? Tiffy or Bailey? You ain't even got to answer it right now. But
in a match
those are some
or
of the
with
questions.
the title?
Yeah, that's
in
two
general
different questions.
Because I think those are two different questions. In a match, anything Tiffany does, I'm locked in for more than anybody outside of Bianca and Jade for me, and Io. And that's the other thing too. Kabuki Warriors are fucking hilarious with their facials, like them dancing to Bianca's music. Like they are just
Kyrie.
They are hilarious, man. Like,
Kyrie's a fucking ham.
They are just so funny. I get your point, but
because you think about it, if Tiffany was champion, right? I'd rather see Tiffany in a match with Bianca as champion, or Jade, or or I would rather see those matches than Bailey defending against some of the same women, because I kind of know what I'm going to get. Because from spectacular, like Tiffy is so dynamic in the ring, right? And from a character perspective, because she truly generates some heat, like right, like in the ring and outside the ring. So I would rather see it, because like there's only so many women's spots that you can have, right? So I guess you can have a Tiffany's feud, and if her matches are hot, then it's like, why not make it for something that means something? But same thing with her and Jay. I feel like the time is more now for them. They need to keep on. They're like, I don't know if they have like a bulletin board where they have like who their top people are. I've heard they do. Mm-hmm. And like those top people, they're like, yo, these are the people that we have something for, right? Like, what do we got for this person? What do we got for, like, Tiffany and Jay? They need to be on the top of the bulletin board. Like, hey, what do we got for Jay? What do we got for Tiff?
I think that they we're going to have to assume they've planned it out. That I think they have it planned. But last thing on Tiffany, it's her confidence. Mm-hmm. Like she's one of those, when she walks in, she owns the room. Like even her entrance, it's like, man, she owns this. It goes back to what I said when she came out at the Rumble. Rhodesia's mom was watching the Rumble with us, and she asked, was she champion? Yeah. She's like, is she the champion? It's like, no, mom, there's no champions in this match. We told you that 5 times already, but that's what she exudes. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Rhodesia, what you got before we move on to AEW?
I want to say this out of full of respect, because I love it, and I'm talking about Naomi here. I feel this is probably the most authentic version of herself, and she is having the greatest time of her life, and you feel it and you are excited by it.
Here comes the but.
But but this has nothing to do with her wrestling ability or anything else, but do you have a problem? And I think maybe I do, because I'm asking this question. After the loss, and then she got pinned, she went to go hug Bailey, to the point where even Bailey was a little bit surprised I'm about to get hugged. Like, do you feel that she's being a little bit too real her? Or do you think it's kind of just, it's a non-factor at this point?
I don't, because of who Naomi is. That's number one. I'd rather have that than the quote-unquote good showings, and then we talk about the good showings like they won the match. Mm-hmm. I know I've said it a couple times, but like the Carmelo thing on SmackDown, like he was walking around like his shit didn't stink. Like, dude, you lost. Look, okay, are we looking at this as a shoot, or are we looking at this as a work? If we're looking at it as a shoot, then yes, you should walk around like your shit don't stink, because you just went toe-to-toe with Cody Rhodes, who is one of the top guys in the entire industry.
And that's what he said.
From a work perspective, you lost. There is no such thing as moral victories when we count wins and losses. And then that's what Bobby kind of said. So with Naomi, I don't have a problem with it, because that's her personality. Mm-hmm. Another reason why I don't have a problem with it was because they're not beefed out. There was no beef. We are still friends. Remember, Naomi was the one that had Bailey's back ever since she's been back. Mm-hmm. Bailey didn't do anything to disrupt that friendship. She didn't cheat in the match. You got me. All right, you got me. And also, too, that was their way and Naomi's way of kind of bowing out of the title picture now. She's not getting another shot no time soon. She was in that match to take the pin. So it was also like, all right, okay, now Naomi is out of this picture, and we kind of move on with what's next for her.
Going back to real quick with the Carmelo thing. Yes, we were worried about how he was going to be with the main roster and his character work. He got it, like, right, because that was a heel move. Like, oh yeah, like he's the guy because he went toe to toe with the champion. Like, right? No, dude, you lost, right? But in his mind, like,
and telling Lashley, no, I got it. Thanks,
no, I got this, man. I just went toe to toe with the champ on my first night, right? I just went. I'm good, bro. So, but to answer Rhodesia's question, I'm good with it too because that seems her character now seems like it's not just Naomi, it's Trinity. Like that's something that she probably would have did, like she would have did as a person, not just as a character, right? I think they're the same entity right now. And as you said, like they're friends. It's like, hey, oh shucks, honey, we had a great match. Like, but you got me, like, right? You got me in front of a hot crowd, a hot moment. Love you. I'm about to leave out. Like, right? And we knew when Naomi came back that was going to be her role. Like, right? At first I was like, I kind of want to stay in TNA so she can be, like a big fish in a small pond versus being a little fish in a big pond. Like, right? You look at the pecking order, she's kind of a little bit lower, but everyone has hella respect for her. Everyone loves her, and she does what she does. I'm fine with it.
And now it's time to put her in a story without the title.
Yeah,
that's where she can show her real value. Is okay. I'm not in a story around the title, but I'm in something that I can get emotionally invested into.
I would say I respect what y'all said, and I can see, like, again, that was her bow out of the championship title reign. I guess maybe for me, I would have probably felt, if I had a critique, her maybe showing more disgust that she maybe lost. But hey, I'm glad you still won it. Like, there's a way facially that you can pull that off, and maybe that's just for me. Like, damn it, I lost that. But yeah, come here, girl. Good for you. Kind of feeling. It was just almost like, yay, I lost. Come here and give me a hug.
No, it wasn't that.
You know what, Rhodesia? Like to me. Hey, you know what though? Some people, their way to deal with like a pain is to give love,
and that's okay.
Like, right? That might be with her. Like, hey, look, I'm sad, but hey, let me give you some love right now, right? Because like me giving you love might make me feel something back. I kind of feel like this is part of her personality.
Well, hell, because she freaking rolled up to Backlash that way, so I'm quite sure she's gonna roll herself up out of there. Like I said, my whole thing was that I just lost the match. I am so happy that my girl has it still, but I got pinned. Like, in my mind, I would have been like, damn, Rhodesia, all right, well, come here, keep rocking, do your thing with the championship. It was, again, like, it was literally, yay, I lost. Come here, give me a hug.
All right, enough on our girl Trinity.
I love her though.
Yep, Trinity's a friend of the show.
She is.
So we'll move some stuff to Wednesday's pod because I got Jimmy Smith on Ronda Rousey I want to talk about. I have if y'all want to talk about the Wyatt 6 stuff with Uncle Howdy, I have that information. We don't want to do spoilers, that we can not talk about that. And then I also had the Drew Gulak stuff. So we'll move all that to Wednesday's pod. So I do want to get to AEW.
Fuck Drew Gulak.
Yeah, like that.
Fuck him.
Power is a sumbitch when you think you're more than what you are. So we'll get into that on Wednesday. I do want to get to AEW because, to your point, AEW had a really good week. My biggest takeaway from Dynamite was the final segment, of course, with Kenny Omega. Loved his promo. I think that promo was the best promo he's ever cut in AEW. It just sucks that AEW, and it's their fault. It has nothing to do with how hot WWE is right now. It has nothing to do with no outside factors. It just sucks that this angle was not done when they were hot, because it would be getting much more conversation than what it is. I thought it was a perfect angle and an end to Dynamite. He comes out and, talks about the real life stuff with diverticulitis. Already sets up, and you can ask Rhodesia, as soon as he made the comment about, man, any blunt force to my stomach, I could be a goner. And I immediately started clapping, was like,
Houdini.
let's go, baby. Elite, Jack Perry, here it is. And that's what we got. I thought it was fantastic. What'd you guys think of maybe the better question? Do you think this storyline is getting the love it should get and the love that it deserves?
It's getting the love that it should get and deserve by people who are AEW fans, and people who are not AEW fans, it's not. But kind of like just even with the rap beef, it is literally one side or the other here. I absolutely enjoyed this, and we knew the moment he mentioned the getting the blunt force trauma, we already knew where this was about to go, and it was still great. This could be, again, we talked about when Tony became talent, the best storyline that they have ever had in the company, and if we do all of this right, and I think that this is exactly that. I kind of want to touch on this, and then it's on other stuff, but this Dynamite to me, because I watched the majority of it, I told you I'm back now. It was so much story progression throughout the whole entire show, where they're planning things for the next week. This is what we've been talking about. Get me bought in to watch the next week. And you're looking at things like Don Callis and Orange Cassidy. Yo, hold on. I thought Trent was the bad guy. Why Orange Cassidy entertaining Don Callis right now? So now that's setting us for me to watch Dynamite next week. We got Mariah May. You had Tony Storm throwing in a towel. Is this where the demise coming from? This is what I'm talking about. Like, get me excited to watch the next episode. And with that main event, or that wasn't the main event as far as that, but the last segment, that is going to set me up to now watch what's going to happen next. Because yes, we know that it's going to be the battle of good and evil. That's kind of what wrestling is always about. But it's going to make me want to watch now next week, just to hear now, is Kenny going to be out again for a while? This is what I've been waiting for, because AEW has some really good talent. Like, I've been waiting for this. So overall, to answer your question, for me, because I'm an AEW fan, is getting the love that it deserves and what it should be getting.
Yeah, I agree with Rhodesia 100% actually, on everything. This is actually the kind of episode of AEW I thought that they needed, and I hope that they will start giving us. I was a little worried last week. That's why I said I was gonna from the previous Dynamite. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna say a whole lot. I'm gonna let y'all have it. I know y'all enjoyed it, and like I wanted to like, and I knew
still to go.
And I knew how it was gonna go. Right? If I brought up anything and how hot y'all was on that show, that'd be the attack of E. I'm an AEW head also. Like, I'm gonna let y'all have it. I'm gonna let y'all have y'all show. But that last week's show was the good and bad of AEW all in one show. And when we talk about is it getting the proper love, is because prior to, I think, last week's show, they kind of squandered like the opportunities when they had a bigger audience or a different audience or more people kind of watching the show, with the big business and the way they laid out that show. I think last week's show, like, it had a lot of good parts of that show. For instance, I think if I had somebody like my brother-in-law or somebody who doesn't watch AEW often to watch last week's show, I think there's multiple times to where they would go a point and say, hey, E, why you watch this shit? I think there was multiple times in that. And even with that last segment with Tony Khan, that was a very hot and it has some very cold segment. Just so if you're a wrestling fan who doesn't, like, if you're an AEW hater or you don't watch AEW or you're a WWE fan and you see the way Tony Khan sold that blow, right? He takes a back bump, like a super back bump, a great back bump too, by the way, right? And then like 15 seconds later, he starts holding his gut, like, right? Like that looks corny, because it was corny stuff happening throughout the show that was mixed in with the good stuff, and there was so many shenanigans on the show that if you're not into that type of action, you're like, I'm good on this. But this week's episode, like, that's something that you can follow, and you're like, okay, you got some good action. You got some good storyline progression. They finally are fucking making their heels matter. Like, right? That was some good heat that the Bucks and Elite got in that final segment. And like, it was great that Kenny was there to tell a great story, have one of his best promos, as you said, Matt, and kind of tell that story that where that beatdown happened and that blunt trauma happened, that it meant something. Like, right? We all knew what was going to happen when he popped up on there.
Yep.
But the story that they told leading up into that moment made it matter. And it created a huge amount of heat. If people didn't think that the Elite were heels in this situation before, they knew watching Wednesday. Like, right? Because they were heels all throughout that. And guess what? The rest of the good guys, quote unquote, on the show lets you know these guys are assholes, right? Because everybody talked about it. Everybody, hey, man, these dudes are some asses. Like, Swerve called them some bitches, right? Oh, Swerve say some bitches, they must be, right? But guess what? There's repercussions to them talking back, right? Which I like. You know, hey, here's a phone, right? When Stokely has something to say, like, hey, what besides my actions, led to this moment? Like, right? I love those types of things.
Right?
Besides my actions, right?
I love that. I
Like,
know, Matt,
right?
you've been hating on Stokely, but
You know what? I don't hate on Stokely. I love Stokely. My issue with Stokely, and it's an issue with AEW, is we talked a few weeks ago about WWE, and we talked about where people are slotted. We kind of walked away and was like, everybody's kind of where they should be. Top of the card, middle of the card. AEW doesn't have a top of the card, middle of the card, or lower card issue. They have a miscast issue. And what I mean by that is, take Ethan Page. Word is Ethan Page's contract is I'm not going to come out here and act like Ethan Page should have been world champ. No. What I will say is they didn't maximize Ethan Page when they had him, particularly because Ethan Page is a hell of a promo. Ethan Page does not need a manager speaking for him. The majority of his run in AEW, he had a manager. Stokely, hilarious. I love Stokely when he's on my TV. But he doesn't fit when Mercedes and Willow are talking serious real life stuff. We got Willow, and Willow cut a fantastic, maybe one of her best promos. Not as a bubbly babyface. She cut one of those a couple weeks ago, which was great. This was her serious promo. Look, it's all fun and games until it's not. And then we go right to Stokely, who's making a joke in the same segment. Stop. You're telling me two different things. Like, either give me Stokely by himself as being funny, or have him play it straight when somebody around him is serious. But you're telling me two different stories at one time. So that's kind of just been my issue the last couple of weeks with Stokely.
That was a big part of when I mentioned last week. I said that their segment was a train wreck. It was too much comedy from Cat. Then it was comedy from him, and then you had they brought my man Caprice out to do like this rap. Like, man, like, and then you had Mercedes come out. Like, I feel like if you're a Mercedes fan and you want to see what she was doing, you had to sit through all that to get to that moment, right? That's a lot. Like, I feel like that fan base was turning up. But going back, that was a show they needed to keep telling, right? Continue to tell this Elite story. Finally, put people as position as heels and faces, right? One of the big things that we had on that Backlash show is that the crowd were behind the faces and they were booing the heels, right? And the finishers meant something because they wanted to see the people they're cheering for win, right? They wanted to see people they were booing lose. You don't always have that dynamic on AEW television. I think it hurts the overall product. People could say it doesn't, but that's why there's a lot of complacency when you watch these shows, because the good part of their fan base, right? Even the AEW audience, the people that show up, that are hardcore fans, they don't watch consistently every week. And you see it in the attendance, live gates, pay-per-views, etc. People say it's not a problem, but then they can't tell you why they're not watching consistently. And that's part of it, because you don't know who to root for half the time. And I think they're fixing that right now with this Elite. And it also made me remember, like, man, we got a great faction they're creating right now, because I was kind of really cold on the Jackson brothers. Hey, they're awesome right now, but I also remember, like, damn, where's the United Kingdom, the worst heel faction in all of wrestling? Where are they at? I ain't seen Wardlow or none of them boys. I've seen Roger Strong, boring me half to death in his title run.
I think Roger stole something from E, because he hates him.
Yeah, he stole my time. He stole my time, Rhodesia, because I gotta be sitting here and be bored by his damn matches and promos. Yeah, and then I'm mad at y'all because y'all put this negative energy that y'all want him as champion for some reason, so he can sit here and be bored by his matches and promos. That's what he took from me, is my time. But he ain't taking no more of my time. When his ass pop up on TV, I hit that fast forward, and I continue to enjoy the rest of the show while he's off. So, hey, God bless that man. I don't want you on my TV, especially not a champion. But great showing from AEW. That's what they need, man. I hope they continue to tell this AEW Elite story. But I'm also curious, like, where's Tony Khan going to fit in this? Because like you think about
he's gonna be gone for a
Eric,
while still. Remember, he's still
but-
his back and his stomach. Remember?
oh yeah, for sure. But I think about like other authority figures, right, who popped up on air, right? When Vince did it, phenomenal as Raw as a heel, right? Eric Bischoff doesn't get credit for how great of a character that he was, like, right? Damn, I just don't see Tony Khan being on that level of character and interjecting anything worthwhile in these feuds.
You guys may feel completely different. I don't think he's going to be an on-air character. I don't. I think if we see him again, it's going to be to introduce maybe something or someone in this, but I don't think we're not going to see him consistently on TV battling the Elite. I don't see that at all.
You don't see him joining the Elite either?
I don't, man. No. Well, maybe, but even so, I still don't see him on TV often at all.
So when you say TV often, that still is all relative. Often is relative. I do forecast Tony being an on-air personality. How often we see it, that would be kind of like, well, you have to put my feet to the fire for me to give you an answer there. Probably once or twice a year. But I think the moment that he sold his back and his stomach in that ring, he became now an in-ring talent. So I think that he will show up. And I think he will be in that capacity. I just don't think it's going to be often, meaning like once a month, once every 2 months. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Because
Rhodesia Eshaun should be a
Shaka
Khan. Yeah, the face for it.
And I think
who Shaka Khan? His daddy.
Yes, and I think they should run a gimmick to where he thinks it's all legit. He thinks everything is a shoot.
Yes.
And I think they have to like kind of talk to him like on air, like how it's not really what you think it is, but he comes out every single week asking where his son is at. And like,
give me that.
My son is like spending his money. He's here every single week, but I can't find him anywhere because of what you guys did to him. What is happening? They got to kind of wish him away. I think that would be great TV.
Please don't give nothing like that. We don't need no corny shit on that TV. But like to Rhodesia's points, like what was that segment for if it wasn't to introduce him as an on-air character, right? Like they brought him out there. Like they made he wore the thing. Like, right, is he just gonna come back like just to introduce a new authority figure? I mean, but maybe that might be like part of Tony Khan's thing, right? He makes these big announcements just for that. But it has to be some kind of payoff for that segment, right?
Yeah, well, the payoff, I think part of it is now Jack Perry is securely planted as a heel, and now a top heel.
I give you that.
And then that was just part one of what we saw with Kenny, which was part two. They are just destroying anybody. You get in the Elite's way, they don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the owner. I don't care if you're other, VP. Your ass is ours. So I love that. Something else I love too. And I didn't think I would love it. And I was like, I'm surprised I'm enjoying it as much as I was. Christian and Swerve.
Ding, ding, ding. I was just about to mention that.
Because typically I'm about like, hey, I need to see, like you're talking about a world championship shot. It shouldn't be somebody who's just returning. But it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. And Christian, once again, talk about the pro that he is and the stories that they tell when it's right. He immediately connected the dot to why he should be next. Man, you and I tagged at the biggest show in history, wrestling history. You got pinned. Oh, that's right. They were a tag team back in August. Okay, cool. Now I'm locked in immediately. Right.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah, opposed to me
like
just having to remember, oh, well, hey, last time they worked together, they were a tag team and lost to Sting and Darby. And no, tell me why this makes sense. So I like that.
And it goes back to someone had mentioned, I think he said about clearly defining your face and your heel. And with Swerve, because he was in that triple threat for a moment with Hangman and Samoa Joe, it kind of like, all right, Swerve, where are you? We know you were face. We know it when you won it, you were face, but kind of where you at? And I think this is now just validating even more. Swerve, you are a face. You're going against one of the top heels of the company that we've ever seen. So that was again more of that story progression. You're writing for weekly episodic TV, and I love it because now I am going to watch, because I know you're going to see each other at Double or Nothing, but I know y'all going to have some interactions between them. So I'm going to tune back in. And Christian is such a huge star that, to me, I feel that was a great what's next with Swerve, because I didn't even think that Christian would even been an option. And we talked about it on the show, like, who's next for Swerve? Who's next for Swerve? We was talking about Will Ospreay for a moment, but again, that could pick up maybe after Double or Nothing. But this was like, yo, I didn't even think about this at all. Now we hear, I'm actually interested as hell in this.
Yeah, 100%. I know there's like a lot of pushback about the rankings. They don't matter. They don't, and they should probably get rid of them.
They gotta
But I
stop.
do like,
Yeah.
they should probably get rid of them. But I do like, and they didn't tell that story, and that's one of the stories I think they may have missed, is that the elite put Christian in this position, right? And particularly to spite Swerve, right? Because Swerve made his comments like, "Oh, you want to talk? I got somebody and something for you." Like, right? And so they're overriding the rankings, right? And they could have told that story in just a second, right? You could have had Excalibur mention that during commentary or something like that, or they could have had the elite say that on air. That's one thing, one slight miss, but that's the kind of story I told in my head, that elite let Christian jump to the head of the line to take the belt off for Swerve because he was talking trash, which is, it will make sense. But I'm definitely there for a huge Christian fan, big Swerve fan. So I'm very interested in seeing the match because, again, as Rhodesia said, we know that Christian is the heel and he makes no mistake. Like if you don't know what his role is, when he starts opening his mouth, you know that he's the bad guy. He's the person that you're supposed to boo. And now that puts Swerve in the position of the person that you're supposed to cheer. So when they have that match, the crowd firmly knows who they should cheer for and who they should boo for. So it should make that match a much more worthwhile.
And I think too, for me, this is the opposite of Cody AJ, where like we know Swerve's not losing to Christian at Double or Nothing, but I'm intrigued in watching Swerve work up to Christian's level in these next 3 weeks or 4 weeks on TV, in the promo battles and whatever the case may be, and then in the match, to watch a bona fide, legit Hall of Famer work with Swerve on a different style match, right? This ain't a death match. This is not going to be a heavyweight fight like Samoa Joe and Swerve was. This is going to be a different type of match. So, like, this is where you kind of geek out and be like, all right, this is what I'm watching for. Yeah, Swerve's going to beat him, but let's see how they tell this story. Let's see what this match looks like. And something else, you were talking, and we may have cracked the code, and we still don't have AEW on like any type of streaming device, so we can't go back and watch the old school Dynamites. But we talked a lot about, damn, what's different from like AEW now? And I'm just saying now is, present. And back in the day when we were just loving AEW, and Rhodesia was like, I bet you if we go back, there's not much difference in terms of show quality. And I really thought about that a lot because there's no way for me to go back and watch. But what I think it is, and it was on full display Saturday in France, it's the crowds. There is no way we spend an hour talking about Backlash, a show we almost forgot to preview, if that crowd wasn't as hot as it was. Same exact in-ring work, same promos. We're probably giving that show 30 minutes to talk about, 35 minutes max. And then we're on to talk about Raf Beef and everything else we had on the docket. But because of how important that crowd made that show feel, we were even more invested. And we think back to AEW when they first started, that first 2-year run, when every single week felt like the biggest wrestling show that was ever taking place, and everybody was over, and everything got the biggest reaction ever. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the Elite and Kenny. And you said about how that crowd reacted. We know the Elite are heels. We know Kenny's a face. And think about the emotional investment that crowd had with Kenny. You could hear a pin drop when Kenny was cutting that promo. And that wasn't because there wasn't nobody in the crowd. It's because they were so invested in what he had to say, they're locked in. That's what's missing from AEW. And it takes time to build that back up, to get people back into the building. But when you only got 2,500 people, 3,000 people in the crowd, sounds completely different when you got 10,000 massively engaged people telling us at home that this is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Absolutely. I have an enlightenment on Swerve and Christian. You think about how it was introduced, they gave us a reason why. Because in the past, let's say 6 months to a year ago, it probably would have just been Christian and Swerve at Double or Nothing with no explanation. They introduced it as the Bucks, or as I call it, the Buck. The Bucks introduced it and gave us a reason why, hey, why he's jumping the line to take you on. But again, even with that, we have our clearly defined heel, clearly defined face. I just have to say this, Sir Swerve, you got to get rid of the purple makeup now. You are a champion now.
I
You
thought
are
about
a
that
good
too.
guy. You
I thought
got to
about that
take it off your face
on
now.
Wednesday.
You got to look different.
But
So
that
let's see.
shows that shows his progression though of what he went through to get to that point.
Mhm.
That's why I was like, maybe that's why he's keeping it, because that, you know, like it shows his aging.
Mhm.
But okay, you are now clearly slotted as a babyface.
Mhm. Now
You
now
are
you need to change.
slotted as the world champ. I agree.
Mhm.
But the storytelling is, when did those bags in his eyes start? When he was putting that
Yeah.
casket at All In last year. And who was he teaming with when he got put in that casket? Christian.
Okay, but I shouldn't tell that it's purple makeup. Is that better then? If you
Well, he's
still want to
black,
look
so
like
you can't use black makeup because then you wouldn't be able to
no,
see.
you can use stop. You're not gonna do that to him. You
Oh.
can still use dark makeup. You don't have to use the color purple makeup.
I don't know what color it was, but I will say I felt like, because he's been putting on like the dark bags for most of his run with the embassy, but it did get more pronounced within the past couple months. So I was like, maybe you a little overdoing it a little bit. But just going back to the crowd thing that you mentioned, Matt, you know, it was funny. I was telling like Katrina that the other day. I was like, you know, back when we used to go to AEW shows, it felt like it was a party. Like the energy was like so infectious when you were there.
Yep.
It was just a great vibe and a great energy. We always said like, hey, you know, like you know, back when you go to a WWE show, like the crowd just was so boring. You would just sit there and, you know, it was kids. It just wasn't there. We compared it to the AEW crowd, and like the energy, the enthusiasm was just there. And that's totally flipped. And
Yep.
I think that goes into, we talk about what's changed. I think for the most part, it's like, for me as an AEW fan, when I sat there and I watched the show, the same gripes I have with this show are the same gripes I had when the show first started. Like, right. And I kept saying like, they got like, this is going to be I said it was a problem sooner than Matt did. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but here it is. It's like 5 years later. And it's the same problems. And the stuff I talk about, it's not like magic. Just having people slotted properly, like as heels and faces, having stories that mean something, like that's what wrestling's about. That's what wrestling's about. Now, there's some people who grew up, you know, watching this indie style show, right? They might have started out watching ROH, so that's what wrestling is to them. But I think a vast majority of the audience grew up, you know, watching WWF, WWE now, you know, or maybe they're old school fans who watched before that. And the shows have always been about heels and faces, storylines and characters. And where you don't have that on high display, you know, you're it's going to hurt you. And then you got Triple H putting characters and storylines in meaningful positions. That's what you kind of want to yield to on top of it so much. They got a new show, WWE Speed. I ain't watching that. But damn, I'm sure somebody is. And if you watching Raw, SmackDown, Speed, NXT, when the hell do you have time to watch NXT, try to figure out what they do with these storylines? You don't. So what AEW needs to do, they need to continue to put on shows like they did on Dynamite, build a reputation of high quality wrestling and storylines, and people will eventually come one by one. They need to follow the Cody Rhodes like formula. Build your fan base, fan by fan. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a couple of days, might take a couple of weeks, might take a couple of years. But hopefully by the time that next contract is up, they've grown their audience and they have a stronger foundation.
Well said, man. Let's end it there. Let's wait, Rhodesia and I, get some time in the next couple of days. Look as much you can into the Kendrick Lamar Drake situation. We'll talk about that on Wednesday too. I just checked Twitter and there's a rumor that Kendrick is going to drop again today. So we'll wait and have that conversation on Wednesday. But I do have a question. My guy Rich sent me a text. He was listening to the pod and he said, the real question is this though. We were talking about G Unit or Cash Money.
Oh.
Bad Boy or Death Row? Who y'all got?
Well, you know, I didn't care at all about the West Coast rap then, so I'll be letting them go. So I'll be rocking with Bad Boy. But then now we got Diddy. Hold on, wait. I'm just gonna exempt myself from this conversation. How about that?
No, you can't. You already
Okay,
gave your
so
answer.
let's okay. So yeah, so it's I
You
will
gave it
keep
already.
I will keep Bad Boy.
We're talking about just music. Just music.
Yeah, I'll keep Bad Boy.
Yeah, that's a great question, 'cause
Right?
Death Row had a really hot run because the Chronic
Talk about
was
it.
the start of it, right? Chronic,
Talk about
Doggy
it.
Style,
Talk
right?
about
Then the
it.
Dog Pounds album was hot, but I think they only really, of course, then Pac came over, of course, right?
Talk about it.
But I feel like they only had maybe a good 3-year run though.
But that 3-year run may have been one of the best runs in the history of music, and that was where I was arguing, like not arguing, because I had a whole answer text sent to him, and I deleted the whole thing, and I was like, man, I'm really struggling with this answer, because if you look at time, Bad Boy was on top for longer.
Yeah.
But if you look at impact, what more impact could it be outside of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and hip hop?
Yeah.
And like everybody remembered where you were when you first heard All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
I don't care how old you were. You remember that double disc or tape,
Double
or whatever
disc,
you were,
boy.
however you were listening to it. But then also at the same time too, we all remember where we were when we heard Hypnotize.
Mhm.
We all were, you know what I'm saying? So that's a
'Cause
really hard one.
Bad
He
Boy
said-
had
he
a
said Death
longer
Row.
run. I had
Yeah.
a longer quality run, right? When to me, like, a couple years when they had putting out quality music, because it felt like as hot as Death Row started, they dropped off considerably once everybody started beefing out.
And it
Like,
was only what, like 4. You know, your big guns were Pac, Snoop, Dre. I mean, you threw Dog Pound in there. We can go with that. But you think about what Bad Boy, and then you talk about Bad Boy on the R&B side too.
Right.
It's like everything Puff was touching at one point was turning to gold.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then, Feet to the Fire. E, who you
Hey,
think?
last thing on this thing. I would say this. Just think about it. Just in time capsule. Like, I think Tupac's death killed Death Row, and whereas Biggie's death, like, they kind of
Propelled
rallied behind
Bad
it,
Boy.
and they kept going, like, right, like, out of the love they had for Biggie. So, damn, man.
I know.
I might say I'll keep Bad Boy, because with Pac, he still had a couple albums before Death Row. Because I was in love with Pac. That was my favorite rapper of all time. I was a Pac fan before Death Row, right? So I could still be a fan of Pac and lose that album, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but Bad Boy gave me so much quality R&B music too. I think
Faith Evans, Carl Thomas,
112.
112.
I think I'll keep Bad Boy.
I want to just say one last thing on this whole thing. I never been a West Coast, and this brings us full circle too, from last episode to now. I never liked West Coast rap. Hated it. So when you mentioned in Dog Pound, you talking about Warren G, you talking about all of that, whatever, fine, whatever, boom. The time, and Matt, I want you to answer this for me. When did I become a West Coast rapper liker? Or when did I like the first time?
Rapper liker? Well, probably Game.
There we go. And why? Because of G Unit.
Yeah, the G Unit rub. But then you also really rock with Nipsey too.
I did. But I said that was the first time. Before then, before Game, I wasn't
Rhodesia
rocking.
hated
I
hip-hop.
hated the West
she
Coast.
hated West Coast when
Absolutely
we got together.
hated
I think a lot of that was just the East Coast West Coast bias. And
it.
we're closer
It had to be.
the East Coast.
It had to be.
And she
I hate
hated
everybody
it.
over there.
I would play and she'd be like, ugh. And I'm like, but if you just like rock, if you
Nope.
listen, just
Nope.
listen.
Nope.
Music is fantastic.
Nope.
And
that's primarily because I think, and this isn't shot at the ASO, but this is just real. Like, I think a big part of the heyday was kind of when you were very much younger, right? And the NWA changed the game, like, right?
Mhm.
NWA, Ice Cube changed the game, and then you think about like Men's Society, Boys in the Hood. You had Spice One, MC8.
MC8.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Like, they were so hot for a good while before the East kind of took over again. Because the East was, I think, took over, was like the thing, like more in the late 80s and that kind of stuff. But like the NWA stuff, like, really changed things and changed the game. It really inspired like a whole culture of music. The NWA did.
It did. And then, like, then New York got hot, right? And kind of looked at New York as just East Coast, even though it's only one state. And then Atlanta took over, and they still are killing
They still
killing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we'll talk about Kendrick and Drake on Wednesday.
What'd you say,
we'll
Matt?
Damn, I thought I was gonna be able to get away with it not answering.
No.
Man, you know what? I could not imagine my music life without either. But I think if I had to pick one, I think I would have to go Bad Boy. Because I would lose out on more music if I said no to Bad Boy than if I said no to Death Row. Like, for perfect example, as much as I loved All Eyes on Me, I think Machiavelli's a better album than All Eyes on Me. Okay? So that means I could go without hearing All Eyes on Me again.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to The Chronic in I don't know how long. I did just listen to Doggy Style like a few months ago. But then once again, you go to anything that I can't listen to on Bad Boy and some of those classics that Puff drop with the samples. And I could go, if I was DJing a set, I could go and not play Death Row. It'd be hard pressed playing a set for our age group and not playing any Bad Boy. You're hard pressed on that.
Man, we got to end the podcast, but let me just say this real quick though. Like, I still listen to 112, Total,
Room 112,
where the players,
Carl Thomas. No, I still listen to a lot of that R&B right now. I haven't listened to The Chronic or any of those albums in probably decades, to be honest with you.
I get it. Yep.
I never listened to them at all. Got you.
Of course you did. Of course you didn't. Oh, and so just preface this also to E. Any conversations you have about the Kendrick and Drake thing, just know Rhodesia is 1,000,000% on Kendrick's side to the point where she's a little what's the word I'm looking for? Delusional?
No, don't do
delusional.
That. Don't do that.
She said Kendrick.
You're not going to hold on. Wait, no,
okay.
We're not going to do that right now.
You're right.
We'll say that when we talk.
All right, I stop it.
Because you're not going. You're not going to control my narrative on that.
That's a wrap, guys.
I will triple down and come and
hit
say
the follow button wherever you listen to your podcast.
What I said, you just try to dismiss me.
Spotify.
I'm ready for it.
Apple Podcasts.
Actually, I'm about to release a song
there.
on you
That's
tonight.
Wrestling. We're on TikTok.
I'm gonna bring out Rhodesia
on Twitter.
versus Matt.
We'll be back on Wednesday.
Just wait.
To follow this conversation up. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.